Hello and welcome to our episode of Run the Point. I'm your host, Justin Rivera, and I'm here with my co-host.
What's up, guys? My name is Nick.
And today, we're going to be talking about our childhood stories regarding basketball. We'll be talking about how we got into basketball, our interests into the game, and like any childhood stories that we have. So, let's get started, guys. So tell me, Nick, how did you get into playing basketball or getting into the sport of watching basketball?
It's funny because I didn't start, I wasn't really interested until I was probably in grade 5. So I was 10? 10?
Yeah, I was around the same age too, yeah.
Yeah, I was 10. I had moved from an area in Toronto called Flemington Park. So it's like the Don Mills and Eglinton area, I guess. So from Don Mills and Eglinton, I moved from there to where I live right now, which is north borderline Scarborough-Markham. But I live on the Scarborough side, so Markham and Steeles. And I went to a school called St. Bede. It's in Malvern. So predominantly, the sport that was played was basketball. I didn't know about basketball at all. I liked shoes. I mean, I knew about basketball. I never played it. I wasn't ever good at it. But I liked shoes. So what I did was I just learned how to play basketball. I started watching the Raptors. I started watching whoever was in the playoffs, because around that time we would, you'd play basketball outside. And at the time, maybe around 2006, May, June, that's when the Heat were in the playoffs. Shaq Wade, Miami Heat. Yeah. So I fell in love with basketball through Dwayne Wade and Shaq. So that team with Antoine Walker, Jason Williams, I think James Posey was on that team. It was a weird team. But I liked the team. I liked Dwayne Wade, so I bought his shoes. I copied his. Well, I didn't copy his moves, but I was like a little 4'10", chubby kid. But I watched a lot of basketball, and I ended up that summer watching YouTube just came out, being popular too. So people were uploading mixtapes of Larry Bird and all these things, and I just got NBA TV, so I fell in love with the game right then and there. And I'm a big stat nerd too, so I like seeing stats and seeing people put up points and stuff. So I did a lot of research, and then through the years I played in SBA House League. So I played a lot of House League up until grade 8-9, where I played for a Filipino team called Angels. It was based out of North York. So I barely went to practice, but I ended up playing a few tournaments. We weren't a great team. We were a very talented team, but very individually talented, and we never were together for a very long time. We were probably together for a year. So after playing with them, I ended up playing with Gladiators, a team that we coach right now. I ended up playing with Gladiators in my grade 10 year, and I was the leading scorer on that team for a bit, and then I stopped going to practice because of travel issues. Practices were in Whitby. I lived in Scarborough, so it was really, really far. And yeah, it was just a tough season for me, because I started really hot and I died down near the end. I didn't end up getting MVP, which is which pissed me off. But I couldn't play rep anymore. I couldn't play OBA. It was just too expensive and very far. So I went back to playing House League for a bit. And then so that was all of high school. And then after high school, I got into coaching. I coached in Mamba House League for 4 years. I won a championship in my very last year. What else? What did we do? Then I moved back to Gladiators and coached there. And we've been coaching there for about 4 years also. Won 2 championships. Our last season was cut short because of COVID, but that's pretty much my story about basketball. You know, like the ins and outs of basketball. I've been through probably the weirdest path to being a coach, but hey, I'm like the person who takes the most unconventional route to get there. So yeah. You know,
yeah.
Justin, like
people,
yeah.
I'm just saying, most people when they're the ones that who when they take the most path, you see the typical path would be a typical, like, you know, they play ball and then they become like a rising star and then they become like one of the best in their team and then eventually win championships and everything. But you know, for me, like I how I got into like basketball was just when I was around, like I said, I was around your age too, like grade 10 years old, grade 5. I remember like I had a friend who I used to live with. So like we went to a school in Parkdale called Holy Family. Like he kind of got me into the game. Like, you know, that's how he introduced me to like Vince Carter. And then it was around the 05. I think I saw my first final series against like the Pistons and the Spurs. And like, even though the Pistons lost, I really liked the way like they played. That's how like I really liked like the defensive mindset and the toughness that they had too. And like during that year, that was like one of my most favorite times when I was watching it. So, but I also fell in love with like watching Allen Iverson. Like I just really liked his swagger, the way he'd enter the court, you know, like his style as well too, like how he make a fashion statement though. Like I remember like one time against the Raptors, like they were killing the Raptors, and then like I think even though he dropped 18 points, he was just chilling. And then like the way he was just chilling on the bench, this guy just, you know, just randomly gives his fans some shoes, and next thing you know, he just walks barefoot. So I'm like, wow, that's yeah. And then the next thing you know, he got traded to Denver with Melo, though. So I'd say, and then I also like grew up as well too, watching like the Boston Celtics in 08 when the big three formed with Ray Allen and Garnett and Pierce. Like I really like from the start, like they were determined to win it all. That's why I liked their hustle and determination though. But I don't know, but in terms of me playing basketball, like the only time is like they had like this program when I was in Holy Family called Raptor Ball. So that was the only time I could play, because like growing up, like my parents, like it was too expensive for my parents to sign me up into that. So like all in all, like, you know, I was mostly keen into watching everything like that I need to know about basketball. And even eventually when I got into like grade 9, I also started to watch like the college NCAA atmosphere. So that's what really, like, you know, like the fan base and everything. So that's what really turned me. And then like, you know, once first year came around, I started coaching with you, with Mamba as well too. Like only did it for 1 season, and a second year was a bit busy there. And then it wasn't until after that I came into the second year of when you started coaching Gladiators, and then that was when we won our championship though. But all in all, like, you know, I grew up like, you know, just wanting to know more about the game, know more about like the players, and like, you know, how just like seeing it as like, you know, as a means of like, you know, having fun watching it, chilling. Also, but like, you know, I think personally, like sometimes it's like, do you ever feel like you have like any nostalgic moments, like when you're watching basketball? Like, can you think of any like nostalgic moments? Like, think of like one thing that you bring you back to the past.
I have a lot of memories, man. I have a lot of game memories. Even though I played House League was very competitive back when I used to play. So we had a lot of crazy teams in House League that could have played rep, and you know, like, as funny as it is, and we're playing men's league now, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Like when we play men's league now, it's the same teams, it's the same people playing men's league that used to play House League. It's not the OBA guys playing men's league. It's the House League guys who are very competitive. So I don't really know. Like I guess like one very distinct memory I can get from my playing days is my one and only year playing for Gladiators OBA. It was our second to last game against, I think it was like South Wellington Celtics or something like that, right? So it was a bad team. Like the dude, we were playing against this team and the guy wasn't even wearing ball shoes. Like that's how bad they like that's how I know they were bad. I'm like, the guy's wearing like Nike Freeze or something like that on the court. They were clean, don't get me wrong, they were grippy, but they were not ball shoes. So I remember the first half I caught fire. It was the first half, like I brought down the ball. There's no shot. I think I don't know if there was a shot clock, but this time I don't remember if there's a shot clock, but I used to run pick and roll like no tomorrow. Like I pick and roll and I made sure like my bigs were being fed. But back then, back in that game, I think I ran pick and roll for the first play coming down the court, and I pulled a three because they sagged. They dropped behind the screen. So I said I told myself I'm gonna pull it. So I pulled the three. My coach Tito Ron was like, "Nick, what are you doing?" And then I made it, and he's like, "Okay." So from then on, I knew shit. Like I'm going off this game. So the second, I think like the next few possessions, what I would do is I'd pull a couple more times, I'd make it. So like now I'm at like 9 points, and then they play up on me, I'd bounce pass. So I think I was going crazy that game. Mind you, this is a team wearing like Nike Freeze, Nike Dunks. Like these guys were not, they were hoopers, but they didn't have the kicks for hooping. So so I'm like, yo, I'm feeling it. Like I'm going off. Second half comes, I'm driving, I'm making my layups and ones. Like it was my best game in OBA, like hands down. I was all over the floor. I probably had like maybe 5 or 6 assists because I was going off. Like I had majority of the points and majority of the rebounds and majority of the assists, like I was responsible of. So I think at the end of the game, my dad told me you had 35 points, and 35 points, like 6 assists and like 8 rebounds, something like that. I'm like, oh shit! Like I was amped because I went off. Like I genuinely went off that game, and that was our only win. And we won because I literally took over the game. And I'm like, shit! Like, dang, what a great game! I look at the score sheet. And my teammate had the number, I think 19 or 29, and I was wearing number 9 that season. So, bad scorekeepers. Guess what happened?
They keep track.
They recorded it. They recorded half of my points to the next guy.
Oh, so then the other guy
on my team. The other guy on my team had my half of my points. So I look at my end of the season stat sheet, and that game, I'm looking for that game. I looked at that game. I'm like, bruh, how did I have 17 points and he had 15? Mind you, he didn't play a minute. He didn't play a minute. He didn't play a minute in that game. Right? I played like majority of that game. Oh my gosh, my health, my grade 10 body was eating 40 nuggets and like large fries and an
Oh.
ST, and I can play
Yeah.
that whole game and still have stamina. So yeah, I went off, and I remember it was like 32, 35 points, like 8 assists and 5 rebounds, some shit like that. Like it was an absurd stat line that I probably would never achieve again, and I was like robbed on the stat sheet. So that's one of my like most memorable stories. And I remember like the follow-up game, we played Niagara, and this guy, he was like 6'2", 6'3". He guarded me, and I hit 3 threes in the first quarter. On the same side. Yeah, I'm like, dude, am I still like on fire or what? Like, we didn't win that game because their point guard was 6'1", and I was the small forward point guard on my team, and I'm like, what, 5'8"? Like I'm like currently like I'm like probably like 5'7", 5'8", and I'm like, bro, like what? Like how? So yeah, we lost that game by like 5, but yeah, it was that season. I remember that season because I had games where like I played well and Tito Ron would just take me off the floor.
Wow.
Like, yeah, so I mean, it is what it is, but you know, what can you do?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of my stories.
Yeah, like like I think for me, like I remember one time, like you remember, like I remember watching the Raptors versus you know that game where Vince Carter hit that game-winning 3 with like against the Raptors with 0.1 seconds. So it was like Jason Kidd was bringing the ball up the timeline, and then he just did a dribble handoff to Vince Carter, and then Vince Carter was just like drain, like hit up a 3, and then it went in. It kind of like hit the rim and it went in like that.
Yeah.
I remember, and there was like one time that was like I was with like my dad and my brother. We were like watching when we lived in our apartment there. Like we were like, we saw that game when once that shot goes in, it was like 104, 102. So let's fast forward, go back before that time. Like Calderon was into the free foul line. I think he was supposed to make like 2 shots, so it was 103, 102 at the time.
Yeah.
Calderon makes the first free throw, and then the second time he missed, I'm like, oh shit, we should have made both of them. And then the next thing you know, he brings the ball up the timeline, and then Vince Carter shoots it, and it's like, oh man, that's when I hate. And especially like and Morris Peterson, remember that game where Morris Peterson, he got ejected just because Vince Carter was like, slapping him, like it was all from.
I remember that.
Like, at that point, I was like, yo, fuck, like, man, I don't know, I hate Vince Carter now. Like, and then next thing you know, when the Raptors first made the playoffs against the Nets, I'm like, damn, I don't want them to meet New Jersey, because it was that time like they had the 7th seed and the Wizards had the 6th seed. So then like I was like, yo, please man, like they matched up favorably against Washington in the regular season, so I wanted them to play Washington. And next thing you know, for some reason, Vince Carter just takes the 6th seed, and then Vince Carter, and then next thing you know, I'm like, fuck, yo, they're gonna play. And honestly speaking, like, yo, Vince Carter, like, he single-handedly, like, I hate to say it, like, he booted the Raptors that series. And then Game 6, man, like,
Are you sure? Are you sure he booted the Raptors? Because here's a hot take. If Calderon didn't turn the ball over in Game 6, that was Game 6, right, in New Jersey?
Yeah, it was Game 6.
Because the Raptors have home court advantage, right? So if Calderon didn't turn the ball over on that pass to Chris Bosh, and he actually got that pass through, because Chris Bosh had a matchup with Mikey Moore in the paint, right? And he was
I remember that.
So he was on the block, and like Calderon passed it to him, and I'm like, yo, Game 7. Hot take. The Raptors probably would have made it really far that season because all it took was a steal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's what I'm saying. Like, yo, I don't think Vince Carter ever footed the Raptors in the playoffs unless we can watch that series back. But I'm gonna say this now. Yo, Vince Carter did not food us. Vince Carter footed us. He footed us in like regular season games, and I can say that for a fact because there's times where he got that. Remember that reverse dunk? to win the game.
Oh yeah.
There's that. He had a game-winning three. The game-winning three was his first time back in Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he jumped, and Jason Kidd got on his shoulder and stuff, and like that's what happened, right? That's the one you're talking about. But the next one was like Bargnani was guarding the inbound, Jason Kidd was passing the ball, and then it was a backdoor cut. Boom. Vince Carter, alley-oop dunk, and then that was game.
Reverse.
Yeah, on a reverse. But the thing about Vince is that he's just like, he's portrayed as a villain because he's on the other team.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my hot take. Like, he wouldn't be a villain if he was on the Raptors still, and then at the end of the season he got traded.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the season, not in the beginning. Like at the end of the season. You know what I mean?
But didn't he get traded in the middle? I swear.
Yeah, he got traded in the middle. Yeah, and like Alonzo Mourning didn't report. You know.
Oh yeah.
A bunch of Williams guys, like a ton of Williams, like the whole Williams family came over to the Raptors for some reason. Like Eric Williams, Aaron Williams, like Maureen Williams, like everyone, bro. Like everyone came, but like
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, and I remember that stuff.
Yeah, like that was like the most painful, and then I remember like in grade 9, we that year where we were so close into making the playoffs. We had the 4th seed at one point. Like, you know, Chris Bosh was playing nice. You know, I remember Jared Jack was on that squad. You know, but I mean, bro? And then sooner or later, like the Raptors after All-Star break, they slowly but surely started to digress. And then Chris Bosh had that hand injury, and like bro, they just couldn't like.
The thing about that year, so that was like 09, 2010, right?
Yeah.
So the Raptors had a terrible team. If I can pull up, okay, let me just quickly pull up. If my internet won't lag here, but let me pull up the Raptors roster. Right, so that roster was terrible. I think Jamario Moon was our starting small forward.
Mario Moon.
I think. I don't remember for a fact, but like we had Roko Ukic, bro.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know Roko Ukic? Okay. You know how he dribbles? Like it's very close to carrying the ball, but he's a great player.
Yeah.
He's a 6'5" point guard. Jay Triano was our
the coach.
Okay, so we had Bargnani, we had Bellinelli. Yeah, I remember the season. We had Hito, and okay, so this is our starting.
Oh,
this is our starting lineup.
Yeah.
This is why we suck. We had who's our point guard? I think it was Jared Jack or Calderon. Depends on who was healthy.
Yeah.
DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
Chris Bosh and Andrea Bargnani. That was our starting lineup.
Andrea running the 5.
Bro, we also had Marco Bellinelli, Marcus Banks, Jared Jack, Amir Johnson, Pops Mensah Bonsu, Sonny Weems. Antoine Wright was also our starting. No, DeMar DeRozan wasn't. Oh yeah, he was. Antoine Wright was also one of our starting shooting guards at one point in the season. It was not a good roster. I'll tell you that. Like, signing Hito Turkoglu, right? We signed Hito Turkoglu, and then I remember like he had turned the deal down from Portland, and I'm like, bro, we're gonna sign Hito Turkoglu, and then I found out the only reason why he liked it here was because of the large Turkish population in Toronto. I'm like, that is so BS. Like, are you kidding me? It's like that's like saying, yo, I'm gonna go to LA. I'm gonna sign with LA because there's a large Filipino population, not because of the team.
Like, what the Bro,
what does that matter? What does that matter?
No, man. Yeah, why?
I'm gonna
long
go
as
to
you're playing.
California because there's a large Filipino population. Like, what? Like, he legitimately said, I remember that because he said that. Like, he straight up said that, and I'm like, bruh, for real?
And they signed him for like I think 50 million at the time. So I was like, that's a bit too much there. And then he'd only be there for like 1 year, and then he'd get traded for.
They signed him heavy, bro. They signed him for it wasn't a fat contract, but it was like, let me see.
Like he was
like
a bit overpaid.
Oh, this is Colangelo's like move. Like he loved this move. Like Colangelo made some bad.
Like he was endorsing it.
Colangelo made some bad deals, bro. Like
yeah, play like it's play like yo, we're gonna change the direction, change the call. I'm like, oh my.
Like Colangelo made some terrible deals.
Like, oh my god,
and the reason why is because he's really trying to save his job, you know, like he made the playoffs twice, and I'm like, dog, nah, bro, like this team is not meant for the playoffs, man. Like I was pissed. I was like, I remember like thinking to myself, I'm like, when is Hito Turkoglu gonna turn up? Like, when is he gonna drop mad buckets? So Hito Turkoglu was earning 9 mil that year. At the time, that was like near max contract because Chris Bosh was earning
near max contract. Yeah.
The next person after Hito was Jose.
Oh yeah.
At 8 mil. Dog.
8 mil at
that's a rookie contract now. Because of inflation.
Yeah.
Because due to inflation, Jose Calderon's contract is like a rookie contract. Like current that contract for that year, like what, 11 years after, 12 years after. Anyone can get that contract. Bro, like Norman Powell has that contract and he's doo-doo. I mean, like, no, he's earning. Norman Powell has Chris Bosh's current contract, like 09 contract.
09, yeah, like 15 or something like that.
15 mil. And like, Siakam earns double that.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry earns double that. Like, DeMar DeRozan was earning 2 mil as his rookie contract. The rookie contract now is like 4 mil.
4 mil, like around that. It's like the standard now. Like, you know, get paid more, but you know that's
the standard is like 10 mil. As crazy as it sounds, like you're a decent role player. Like you put up 10 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. Like that's a good player there.
That's a good player though. Like
that's $10 million.
$10 million. Like, you know, at the end of the day, like as long as I have a family to feed, you know, just if I'm making that much, then I wouldn't mind sitting on the bench. Just gotta come to practice.
If I'm sitting on the bench and I'm earning 3 mil, bro, I'm living life. I might play for another like 4 years. If they like, let's say they sign me to a $20 million contract, 5 year span. So that means I'm earning what, 4 mil a year, right? If they sign me to that contract, right, and I don't play a minute, I'm gonna invest in some crazy. I'm just gonna do all this shit, like do some crazy shit with my money, and then like after all that, I'm gonna retire after 5 years and still make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you're just basically making money, not really doing much now. You know,
like if that can happen, like if players back then thought the way that, you know, players do now, like most of them have clothing lines, they all like rap, they make money somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
If most of them do that, then easy. They'd be so rich. But most of them don't do that. Like I'm pretty sure Marcus Banks is not doing shit right now. Like let's be real. If Marcus Banks ever was doing something, I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's probably running like, dude, Quincy Doobie. Remember Quincy Doobie? Dog, see See, that's what I mean. Quincy Doobie, right? He was like a trade bait. He was like a trade piece.
Oh,
$85,000 on the Raptors in 2009. Pop Spencer Bonsu earned 250,000, and then Sonny Weems is earning $736,000 on this 2009 Raptors.
Oh no! Oh,
$736,000. Yes, like it's not even in the millions.
Yeah, like
the vet min,
like
the vet min right now is $1 million, meaning
$1 million.
Who's on the Raptors absolutely eating space like right now?
I think Kyle Lowry
eating space.
Oh, I don't know who.
Like the end of the bench.
Oh, like someone like Utah Watanabe.
Yeah, dude, he's earning $1 million.
$1 million. $1 million, just like that.
Oh. Like straight up, like that dude signed they call it Exhibit 10, I think, or Exhibit 5 or some shit like that.
Yeah.
You have 10 days to exhibit what you're capable of. It's a semi-guaranteed contract. Just under $1 million.
Just
once they decide, that's, mind you, that's like I think that's an unguaranteed number. Like half of it's guaranteed. And then when they convert that into an NBA contract, that's like $1 million contract. Multi-year
though.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he still leaves with money regardless, right? Are you saying?
Even if you're unguaranteed, if you're unguaranteed in the NBA, it just doesn't mean that it goes against your salary cap. But yes, you leave with money. You freaking
leave with money. That's. I mean, hey, if you're hopping around from team to team, you know, like getting shit like that.
Dog,
I mean,
do you know the story about Gilbert Arenas? So remember
what happened to Gilbert Arenas?
Remember when Gil signed that 6-year, $111 million contract? Like,
yeah.
Remember that? So
yeah, I remember that.
That was the biggest contract back then, right? 112.
Yes.
The year after, he had re-upped with the Wizards. Okay, so like he signed for even more money. This guy got traded so many times to the point where I think the last team that had him was Orlando, right?
Yeah.
And he had stepped away from the game, right? Dog, this guy was getting paid 20 mil for till last season.
Like last.
By Orlando.
Oh my god,
bro! Like,
and then the next thing you know,
it was bad, bro. Like, okay, here we go. So Kyle Lowry's earning 30 mil this season.
Yeah.
O'Shea Brissett, who was waived by the Raptors.
Oh, he got waived by the Raptors.
17, yeah, he got waived by the Raptors.
How much was he making?
1.4 mil.
1.4.
The smallest contract is 1.4 mil. Bro, Patrick McCaw hasn't played a game and he's earning 4 mil.
4 mil, yo. The man just won 3 chips in his first 3 seasons playing in the league.
Yeah, on the bench, dog. On the bench, fam.
On the bench. Oh man.
So, I don't know, man. Like Henry Ellenson, who was waived. That's 1.5 mil right there. Like 1. The minimum is like $1 mil, easily $1 mil. Yeah.
Yeah, that is just as blessed too, man.
It's bad.
1.5, man.
It's just as blessed, dog. That's beyond blessed, man. Like you are. I think Utah Watanabe, and the other dude that got that got drafted by us. I think he's they're both on two-way contracts, so they're not being like the Raptors salary cap isn't getting hit. But
oh, that's
bad.
That's bad though.
Yeah. But it's not bad, but it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, so you have any parting thoughts about basketball, like the future? You know,
the future.
Like
honestly,
right now,
I think based on like the whole thing, like I just think like in terms of like basketball, like how basketball is played, I noticed that the game is becoming a lot faster. You know, people are becoming more of a three-point shooter, and I just think personally because like people like the game has become like that because people they want to see more of offensive scoring in a sense because it's more for entertainment. So, and it can help teams generate revenue because you know more people watch it, you know, from what I'm looking at. And I just think in the future, I really think that sooner or later, like teams like, remember how Houston they had like they played small. I think that might be like the future of like basketball. Like think about it, like Roy Hibbert, like back in the day, like 09, 2010, 2012, like when the guy like was an asset into the team. Now someone like Roy Hibbert isn't really like, you know,
they don't
his game like
they don't need a post-up player like that no more, right?
Post-up player like that no more. So like I just think it just shows that the game is constantly changing, constantly evolving. So like you just every year you have, as you know, obviously you have to change up your way though. But in terms of the future, like I think I don't know how it's gonna look like with coronavirus and everything, but like because of the coronavirus, like everything, there's so many like little implications, like things, especially like players are aren't unable to play because of COVID. Like Kevin Durant is like not really playing because of the COVID protocols and everything. And I think, and like take a look at who else? Think of another. I can't think of any more else though. But that just shows that it's really changing. In a way. So,
Like basketball. When I used to play, like when we were in high school and stuff, when I used to play, three-point shooting wasn't an asset. Like we never specifically used three-point shooting. Like, you know, if you're open, you're shooting it, but it's not like we're gonna shoot this shot and open up our offense. No, it was never like that. So the game has definitely changed. A lot more zone. Like if I was a player right now in high school, I probably would fare better because I'm definitely more of a three-point shooter. But it's definitely changed, and like the NBA game is really, really fast. So like higher scoring games, of course, offensive rating is a lot higher, but you know, we'll get into that at some point. But
we'll talk about that in another future episode.
in another episode. But yeah, it was fun doing this for the first time. You know, and you know, I hope everyone liked the podcast. Don't be afraid to DM us or message us. We are always looking for guests, especially since this is our first one. And this was fun, man.
Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Hope to see you guys soon next week. Peace.
Deuces.